The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Tack, 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 dude. Tack, 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 dude.
Radio.
Tack, 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 dude. Tack, 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 dude.
Radio.
Sack. Sack. Sack.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America. And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
What time is it?
Oh, it's time for the Sackheads Radio Show. That's what time it is, Underground Professor.
You know I like being
Lord.
here. It's not past my bedtime.
It's not for once. How are you, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show. We are live from Freedom Fest. Underground Professor is still hanging out with us. Bloviating Zeppelin's hanging out with us. Sackhead Clint is here.
Hello.
Everybody's here.
Hello. The penguin on the telly's exploded.
We haven't even started drinking yet. And more importantly...
I'm not. You had me here with a fake microphone.
There you go. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Wait a minute. What's in that?
I want some of that apple juice y'all are
Yeah,
drinking.
that's apple juice, isn't it?
No, that's Jameson. Would you like some?
Not out of that glass, thank you.
Would you like some out of another one?
That's like
I'll wait a little.
That's Jameson sounds like transgendered whiskey, right? It could be a male or a female. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That was me. My bad. We're just trying to wake up, get everything rolling here. I'm just logging into chat at shrmedia.com.
So what did you guys have for dinner?
Prime rib.
Did you really? Where'd you find the prime rib?
There was a special. I think it goes till 10 o'clock, right downstairs, $13.
What?
Yeah.
Me and Ken went to that buffet, and it was like $22.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We hit that.
Yeah, but
they gave us 20% off.
Yeah, they gave us the old man discount because I complained about the price. But the bad news is they hung up Ken's picture, and it's got a red line and a circle over it. So I don't know what that means, but yes.
Too bad he's not here to defend himself.
Well, no, and nor will he be. We are live from Freedom Fest in Las Vegas, Nevada, coming to you from Planet Hollywood. This is the Sackheads Radio Show, a special edition. We have a lot to talk about this week. Outside, what? Oh, wait, I should probably turn you on, huh?
Yeah. Turn Sacco's microphone on.
Yeah, how's that, Clint?
I mean, Clint.
Oh, wait, are you there?
I'm here.
There you are.
There I am.
No, now I get everyone, I think.
Just turn them all on.
Yeah, I'm on.
All right, quit messing around with his microphone and pour me a drink.
Sean, just turn me on.
I'm being ordered to serve drinks.
Just turn me on.
You're
Stewardess.
Stewardess.
Turn me on, dead man.
Well, I haven't sipped out of this yet, so I'll just start handing them out.
Yes.
Really?
And we're enjoying
That is
a nice
Jameson
glass
and ginger.
of Jameson and ginger. I will.
Jameson
Let me
and
get the
ginger.
professor.
Wait a minute, do you
only
have one?
because I'm going to get more. The
Okay.
professor's not
All right.
going to be with us much longer.
Hang
I mean,
on.
age-wise.
I'll pour.
Jesus.
So I just want to make sure that he gets it out of the way.
I'm expecting someone to bring up my walker any minute, so I can go.
He's a Texas
That's
Ranger.
that's called a rascal. That's not a walker.
That's right.
Yeah.
A freedom.
It's not a
freedom
walker.
motor. Yeah, freedom walker.
Kick that walker out from underneath him, and he's not crap.
Nope, not at all. So,
I was actually at Walmart the other day, and someone came up and took my arm, and I looked down, and they were saying, "Do you need some assistance, sir?" I was like, what the hell?
you're like, it depends, sweetheart. What are you offering? No, Professor, is obviously not your first time to Freedom Fest. You've been here before. Mark, bloviatingzeppelin.net. This is your first roundabout with Freedom Fest. What do you think so far, sir?
It's a whole lot of fun. And it's a whole lot of fun getting to know it through you guys and kind of see it through your eyes. And get to know all the people that are on your network. I mean, everybody here, everything that I'm encountering here, this is all new to me.
Right.
And it's a great place. I'm really enjoying you two guys, and thank you for taking me under your wing.
Oh,
so to speak.
This is just the beginning.
And thank you for the Jamesons.
Our pleasure.
Is that single malt?
Just Jameson.
I'm not allowed to drink blended whiskey.
It's an Irish whiskey.
I'm Scottish. I think this is. You guys are racist.
Well, you know what? You nailed it. We are.
Everybody knows that Sean is the blatant bigot. So
Sure.
Well,
Wait,
Ken says
I like
so.
that alliteration. Blatant bigot. You gotta like that.
So, we don't know how long tonight's going to go for. We do like to do kind of a wrap-up of the day here every single night at the Sackheads when we come out to Freedom Fest. Obviously, Mark has been helping us tremendously. We're trying to push him into getting a show.
He's almost like one of us.
He fits right into the group. It's
I'll
kind
tell you
of crazy.
what, you guys had people coming here one after another, after another, after another.
we're kind of a big deal here at
made,
Freedom Fest, just so you know.
Yeah, well, they're changing
hell
the
of a
name
lot.
next year, Mark, to SHR Fest.
It ought
I'm
to
okay
be.
with that.
You had, I'd hazard at least 15 people on your interviews today.
Well,
just today.
Which
Just
is
today.
larger than our audience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's larger than your audience.
Well, that's what I meant.
yeah, that's why you have the
That's
time
a
slot you
royal
have.
we. That's a royal we.
No, it's absolutely true.
We have 16 listeners.
Oh, show off.
Oh, man.
So that's why I try to be nebulous by saying tens of listeners. That's 10, 20, 30. It's all the same.
Right.
I do have to throw a shout-out to our good friend Ken McClinton, who we always joke about.
Who?
And rightfully so. Kitten McClinton.
Ken Clinton?
Kitten
McClinton.
Kitten. He was selected this evening to be on a panel by Dr. Mark Scousing, who is the chairman of all of this. Freedom Fest. He's the one who puts it together. The Scousing family do an excellent job here, and of course, everyone who works for them is great. And because of Ken is who he was, one of the only black guys here. They
It was an affirmative action thing, yes.
It was affirmative action. He was selected to be on a panel, which he's at right now. So we're hoping he joins us later and tells us how that went. He was also on a local Pennsylvania news station, a Virginia news station.
Charlotte,
earlier.
wasn't it?
No, Virginia. It was Virginia, yep.
Oh, they all look alike up there.
They all look alike up there, yep. Charlotte, Virginia, whatever.
Yankees.
And really, once again, the best part about being here is how many ideas there are to restore liberty and maintain liberty, by and large. We talked about last night the libertarians and the difference between them and a lot of the conservative Republicans. It really comes down to, for a lot of them, religion and not is what it seems to be.
You've noticed that?
Yeah.
I thought it was me because I thought I'm being a little sensitive, but there's a lot of people walking around talking about how they can make the case that Christianity and Islam that they're not real.
Right.
And like, wow.
Yeah, well, they're real. It's just, but that this is the religion. The religious issue is really where the far right and the libertarian movement kind of part ways. And we were talking about this earlier with Matt and I, and really talking about how if that issue were a sidebar, and you just talked about from a standpoint of policy, and not policy in terms of I'm talking policy in terms of religious liberty, in terms of conservative values not associated with religion, so like fiscal conservatives and those sorts of things. There's really a lot of common ground in those movements.
Yeah.
Where they really start to diverge is that hard Christianity, the far right in that realm, because you have gay marriage is wrong for everybody, and so that's the imposition of will that group wants to force through law or whatnot. And then you have the libertarian movements that says, well, hey, that's not for you to decide. I think really that's where you get that division. Yes.
Ken brought this up while we were eating on the buffet, and
wait, he was able to talk while he was at a buffet? That's impressive.
Well, what I did was I had a fork and I just grabbed whatever fell out.
That was only after the fourth plate.
But
he got there.
But he was talking about how they talk about if we just got rid of the morality, just talk about taxes and stuff, then the libertarians could support us. But the thing is, as Ken brought up, is, well, where do the taxes go? They pay for things like abortion. And so how do you take the morality out of that? And I think that's an interesting question that, what do you guys think about that?
Well, and it's one of those things, too. I said if that's our only really big divide, and there's a couple things we disagree on, but I think that's the biggest divide between so-called Republicans and conservatives and libertarians. I can't see much else that's bigger.
Right.
It's the gay marriage issue.
Yep.
It's the abortion issue, and really that's it. Because even most libertarians, hey, it's your individual right to exercise whatever religion you want. I mean, that's kind of the libertarian thing.
Is that enough for another party?
No. Well, it depends. Yeah, because there are people that are sick of the Republican Party because the way the Republicans have kind of shunned them because they think they're always going to be there to vote.
Right.
And there's a reason why. Yeah, there's a reason why the religious spectrum of the Republican Party will always vote Republican. It's because they're sure as hell aren't going to go Democrat. They're sure as hell not going to go socialist. And the Libertarian Party says, well, you do what you want. Yeah. And a lot, there is that movement with the religious right that says, well, no, don't do what you want because it's morally wrong. And so then you get into that argument. Right? The libertarian view as well, it's morally wrong to you, but if I'm exercising my individual God-given rights, then that's between me and God, or me and my God, or me and whatever I believe, and not for
just
you
right,
to decide.
sins too. Yeah.
Right, yeah. But exactly. But everybody's a sinner, right?
Right.
If you're a Christian, there was only one perfect person. Everybody's a sinner, and what makes one sin worse than another? In God's eyes, they're all abomination, right? So if one person's sin is sin, if that's the word they want to use, is homosexuality, and then somebody on the far right, if their sin is lying or lust or whatever it is, one sin's not worse than another in the eyes of the Lord. So what's the problem?
Well, this is why government shouldn't be involved in that.
Exactly.
At all.
See, that's
right. At all. At any level.
Yes.
Go to church if you want that.
But that's the libertarian point of view, and that's really where they decide, because the Christians say, well, homosexuality is an abomination, without the context of, well, all sin is, really.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I'd be okay with it if that's what I thought it was, but they seem to go even further. Now they're becoming like anti-Christian. As the pendulum's swinging, and I could be overly sensitive about it, but that's how I think. Oh my God, Sean's taking a selfie.
I say a lot of that with regard to leftists.
Drinks up. Everyone drinks up. Drinks.
Yes.
This
is good radio. We're all holding our drinks up in the air. Yeah.
Oh, hang on, do it again.
One more time.
Oh, uno más.
Hi, dozo. Everybody.
Konnichiwa.
And we're back from commercial.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Jameson.
But a lot of the things on the left I see as sort of a triumvirate. Things went from tolerance to acceptance to advocacy, and if you're not an advocate for everything on the left, you're evil.
And I think, Mark, one step further. Now, forced acceptance. By the other side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
advocacy under
Excuse
duress.
me, we're talking here.
That's true.
Oh, hold on. You want to not be talking? I can make that happen.
Some people are so rude, Mark.
I know, and sensitive.
Yes.
Very sensitive.
I haven't got a word in the last 2 hours.
Yeah.
You're so shy.
And humble.
But
don't forget humble.
But that's the problem, too, that we've dealt with in this country. It seems like the further we say, hey, we as a party, or even we as a people, or we as a church don't like this one thing because it goes against our religious values, then all of a sudden it seems like that's the motivation for a lot of these groups to start coming out and being like, well, now we have to go out through all that shit. Like, it doesn't matter. We have to attack it at the core base and tear it down. And it becomes the point when one person's freedoms begin to impede onto another, and it brings up a legal argument at that point, because we know, based on the Constitution, that no one's freedoms are as far as to be able to trample on one another.
You're not talking freedoms.
Your liberty ends when the liberty of somebody else is affected.
But if you're not an advocate for each and every bullet point of them, you must be squashed.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the funny part, because even on this show, we get flack, and we've said time and again, I don't care what anyone does in their house. That's none of my business.
Yeah.
Right.
Just don't put it in my face.
But that's the libertarian.
Right.
in us,
And,
right.
we come out, we have the argument all the time that if you're religious, you kind of go the only God will judge route. If he deems it a sin, then you have answering to do on the other side. But I don't understand, and one of the things that we've seen here that we don't get with the left on a lot of things, and there's not a ton of differences, like I said, between libertarians and conservatives, but here they'll have a conversation with you.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll actually
engage
discuss
politely.
Yes.
And that's that says to me right there that we have a lot more in common, and we can.
Yeah, I've not been called a homophobic, racist, misogynist, or anything.
And you're
since
all
I've
of
been
those
here.
things, which is
you are
which is
all of
kind of
those
hurting my
things.
feelings. It's like,
the other difference is there are a couple other differences that I've noticed. Some of which is there are some libertarians that believe in complete open borders.
yeah.
I disagree
that I have
with
a problem
libertarians
with.
on two very specific points, and I know where you're going.
Go ahead.
You're going to open borders, which to me basically means you're not a sovereign nation.
Exactly.
There is no sovereignty.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're
and
in a
the
world
second
government.
one begins with the letter D. Yeah, are you going there also?
Go ahead.
Drugs.
Yep.
Oh, I was going to say drudge, but yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely right. Because in that realm, it's a victimless crime, and unfortunately, I
Disagree
don't.
wholeheartedly.
I do. I disagree
wholeheartedly.
with that. Hey,
Well,
if somebody
ask them this.
If somebody wants to smoke a joint, in their backyard, and there's no kids around and nobody else, it's not affecting anybody else. That's one thing. But if somebody wants to,
Well, but it isn't, because, and here's my problem, Clint. And I'm sorry. For once, I actually am sorry I stepped over you. But
Okay.
but the thing is, do you want your airline pilot doing a doobie?
No.
Or your
No, but
physician.
see,
So now, if we're going to legalize this, but then only certain people can have it legal.
This is why I said no. I disagree with that. That's why I said if you're in your own backyard, there's no kids, there's nobody else affected. Airline pilot, you're going to be affected by that, right? For several reasons, because you have a 24-hour period where that's going to affect you because of the carboxy and hydroxy THC,
or more.
Some of which you're going to feel the effects of, some you don't. But either way, it causes that divided
And there's a
attention
cumulative
impairment.
stupidity that comes from it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in those cases, that's where you can start having
That's
similar
where I
DUI
think the
laws.
libertarians miss their mark.
Yeah.
That doesn't occur in a vacuum.
I agree.
The
That's what I'm
consumption
saying,
of drugs doesn't occur in a vacuum.
Correct.
There are consequences to doing those
that
things.
affect other people.
Do you want a firefighter showing up at your house on heroin?
That wouldn't matter, because really, what are they going to do? Burn the tri-tip? I mean, let's be honest.
Well, the good part is they may not be able to get out of the chair. But,
I would like to get an honest opinion about firefighters from you guys.
No.
Even mall firefighters. Those are my favorites.
I like the ones with the little trucks that you put the quarters in.
Sure.
And you bounce up and down for a little bit. And I actually feel like I do more work.
My house is safe because I got that plastic dog with the yellow fireman hat and the little hose.
Nice. Hey, look who's back. Over
The exceptional
right
one.
there.
Right. So did global warming win?
Actually, it was a hung jury. It was.
Oh, so there's a black guy talking about being hung again. That just always intimidates me.
Jesus.
Yeah, Loretta Lynch was present. It all goes together.
Yeah.
It was a hung jury.
Yeah.
6 people voted guilty. 6 people voted not guilty. I voted guilty.
Now tell me what happened. What were you voting on, and
So-
what was your what did you sit
And
on?
how lucky and nice was it to actually be able to vote somebody else guilty?
I've been waiting.
Was that nullification on your part?
I've been waiting 32 years to vote someone guilty. I wear a suit every time the jury is called, in which I can participate.
No,
I
she had
have
your
a special
OJ suit on.
That's right. It is the OJ suit that I had. and the prosecution never picks me. Defense never picks me.
And all they ever say to you is, "No, sir, you're sitting in the wrong booth. That's for jurors."
Come in and clean up after the jury.
Oh God!
It was a very good discussion, and I learned from the defense that was protecting the climate control individuals that the glaciers are going to melt and we're all going to drown.
Okay, how did it get hung? How can there honestly be 6 people who think that this is...
There are 6 libertarians here who were traitors and treasonous to America.
Well...
We will find them, we will identify them, and they will be brought to justice.
Well, what was the basis for the panel? You sat on a panel, and what was it about?
What was it? What?
What was your panel about? What were you doing sitting on that panel? In other words,
I can't hear your question, sir.
He wants to know if you were on the panel because of affirmative action.
Here.
Now, Ken, he wants to know what you were actually doing in there. What was the panel about? What was the premise?
Actually, I was sweeping up behind there, and they said, "Hey, we need a Negro," and so I said, "I happen to be a Negro."
Well, I think you falsely represented yourself because
no
Washington D.C. has declared you not black enough.
Yeah.
I didn't say black.
So
I said Negro.
It was essentially a mock trial.
It was a
on
mock
global
trial
warming.
of global warming.
And you had obviously 12 jurors, and each side presented a case: the pro global warming and the reality. And I kid.
Those who actually make it to Mensa.
I kid. Yeah.
Sean can say that because we had a global warming debate of our own out here.
yes,
Yeah, we absolutely did.
This guy literally dropped in and threw a card at me and sliced my carotid.
And a book at me.
It was brutal. It was a rough couple hours while you were gone, Ken.
Wow.
But the audience ratings went up.
Way through the roof. Apparently, dying is a real audience grabber.
You know what?
I think that Negro's back on. We're gonna have to turn the channel.
I just noticed something. We had so many people standing around in front of us until
Yes.
Ken showed up.
Yeah, it's
And
kind of
then-
weird.
And then Ken shows up, the only black guy at Freedom Fest.
And all you heard was grab your purses.
and
Where the white women at? Where the white women?
I couldn't believe with the presentation of the case, and maybe that's why the judicial reform must take place in America. With the presentation of the fairy tale by the global warmers that all the polar caps are going to melt and we're all going to be under 450 feet of water.
Which is why we all have to have flood insurance now.
Yeah, government insured. I couldn't believe it. What are you guys smoking? Because it shouldn't be sold on the street.
I live at Nellis Air Force Base.
Right.
I'm in the desert.
Yeah, that's under seawater.
Yeah, I live in Vail, Colorado.
Let me ask you a question, Ken.
You gonna ask me something?
Yes,
okay.
And I have a question afterwards, or a topic.
Was the side defending global warming legitimate, or were they just pretending to
No,
represent them?
they had scientists from MIT and some other institution come in. I believe it was the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, who prescribed to the fairy tale of global warming by human-created global warming,
Which is anthropogenic, is it not? Isn't it? I think that's the
Bless
correct
you.
word.
Photosynthesis. That's what I heard.
Anthropogenic.
That's like trying to set the contrast when Ken and I are on a camera together.
Yeah. Well, and when we talk about global warming, you go back, what was it, the late 70s when Time and Newsweek were coming out saying we're going into the Ice Age.
Oh, we hit that,
And then-
did we not,
And
Professor?
then all of a sudden,
Well, this is the cleanup crew. You got to give them credit.
all of a sudden, 15 years later, the global warming, it started with the ozone was going away because
Don't use hairspray.
don't use hairspray.
Oh,
Right.
And
And look at me.
right, exactly, this is what
And you
happens.
still use Aquanet.
And then we see now more and more, NASA satellites are showing that the ice pack is in fact growing on the North Pole and the South Pole.
All you have to do is watch Deadliest Catch to know that.
Exactly.
Come on.
And that's
Right.
the easiest way
Thank
to do
you.
it.
Which,
Actually.
no truth that was my wife.
Right.
The deadliest catch.
But
Talk
so,
to Sig Hansen, for Christ's sake.
but so you have that going on. Scientists keep throwing out, so-called scientists keep throwing out all these facts because government is giving him money to say that. A lot of these places, either a university
What did you
or
do,
whatever,
sir?
they're paying these people to have these studies. So, of course, they're going to get the response. I equate it to some of our illnesses. It's amazing how when funding starts going away from certain illnesses, how the cure miraculously
Yeah,
shows
it's all
up.
about grants. It's all about money.
Why can't we vote away
Global
You
warming.
interrupting
global
my
warming?
speech?
We voted
on
away
my show?
homosexuality from APA. Those were scientists who did that.
Well,
why can't we just vote away?
But
I'm voting in favor of getting rid of global warming today. How many people in
All right.
favor of that?
I anxiously look for
The polar bears.
Sean's next syllable. Yes. It's like talking to somebody.
Well, when you're trying to talk with 5 different people, it's not always easy.
Yeah, if you wanted to talk, you should have been on your show.
Yeah,
Notice I'm
Just
sitting here
saying.
drinking
Yeah.
and just listening.
I know. So, but you have all these scientists. Meanwhile, when we go back to sciences that have so-called been around for 100 years or less, they're always updating and changing, saying, "Oh, we got new information. We got this new information. We got that." I always use the eggs as the analogy. Remember, for years you were told to eat eggs,
coffee
raw eggs.
syndrome.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you couldn't eat the yolk, and then you could only eat the whites, and then there was some yolks you could
Racist.
eat. And some,
Well, I try not to eat the whites.
And at some point you have to ask yourself, if we know so damn much, and if science is so 100% perfect, why do we keep changing eggs? And that's a simple one. You look at the history of the Earth. We've been through a global warming thing where the Earth naturally is heated up and killed dinosaurs after a meteor. If you want to have that argument.
Well, the truth is, smoking killed dinosaurs.
They did have a 2-pack a day habit, and that was just the T-Rexes. But then on the other side of it, you also had ice ages after the dinosaurs had left the Earth.
I want my
so
Newports.
how can anybody, and I still say, how can anyone definitively say
Ma'am,
that they are 100%
that doesn't
right?
belong to you.
And
step away from the book.
We're going to call security.
No, this is serious. So Sean's making a point.
No. Yeah, but it's not serious because Ken's on my show now.
Well.
So that, as long as when Ken gets to the microphone, nothing's serious anymore. It's all just la da 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 da. What are they going to do? Kick me off? Then it's a racist thing. He knows he has me, so I'm not going to say anything.
That's right. We need him for the ratings, for the token ratings.
That's actually his nickname. We just call him ratings around the office.
For the two black people who are listening, thank you.
But you have to ask yourself, if all of these other studies, medicine, food, whatever else they're studying keeps changing with the so-called perfect science, what makes you I've said time and again, I think the Earth just goes through cycles naturally.
Of course it does.
Well, I mean, not just night and day and then the 4 seasons. I just mean that we go through these prolonged cycles of heating up and cooling down, heating up and cooling down. I've said time and again, I think the Earth and Mother Nature is much smarter than we can ever give it credit for. And it does a damn good job of cleaning out certain things when it needs to clean that area all by its lonesome. And forest fires. I always say, we put out forest fires, and I know it's horrible that some people lose lives, but forest fires actually are good for the forest. If you ask a lot of scientists, it creates regrowth. It gets rid of all the junk on the floor and allows new plants to come up. And the ash actually helps the growth as well.
And so does logging.
So,
removing dead trees.
We have to put out these fires when they're in the
deadfall.
middle of nowhere. And we spend billions of dollars a year putting out these fires. Meanwhile, the Earth has had fires well before we had firefighting equipment.
You know what? Perhaps that's a conspiracy on the far right. Perhaps they put the fires out because they believe the Earth is going to be destroyed by fire, by an act of God, and they're trying to defy God. So maybe I revise that. Maybe it's not the Christians or the far right who's doing it. Maybe it's the atheists because they don't want God to exist.
That's a very, very good point.
Thank you.
I didn't think that all the way through, and I'm glad you were here to help me.
You didn't, and I'm here to help you, Sean.
This portion of the program has been brought to you by
Jameson
that we purchased. We're going to take a break.
4 people have glass.
When we come back, you can't whisper because not all of us can hear.
You see, it's good Ken's here because he can't drink in front of us. But if it was no other Baptist around, he would be with us.
I'd be on that gallon.
Yeah, he'd be all over that Hooch 40.
He'd have a straw in that bottle.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more right here on the Sackheads Radio Show, live from Freedom Fest 2016.
Now this is good, clean fun.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying half of the stupid promo.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to Sackhead's Radio Show. I'm your host, Sackhead Clint, along with Sackhead Sean, other members of the SHR family, Bloviating Zeppelin, the Underground Professor, and of course, last but certainly not least, the exceptional one himself, Kitten. I want to talk about, we're live at Freedom Fest here at Planet Hollywood, Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's been a tremendous time, but we do have to get a little serious here on our show, even though we are drinking Jameson as we're broadcasting live. There was a deadly terror attack on Bastille Day in France, and horrible tragedy, but a truck, a large white box truck, ran through a crowd celebrating Bastille Day, killing at least 80 people. There are 18 others who are seriously injured at this time. Several more wounded. I don't have an exact figure for wounded. I saw a couple estimates that put them at about 100, but those are estimates only at this time. So I want to caution folks about using that number. I also just saw a breaking news alert that among the dead are 2 Americans. Mm-hmm. I believe ISIS has claimed responsibility
immediately
for the attack.
Immediately.
So we have another attack in France.
Yeah, France's president also immediately declared an act of terror. Took him no time to come out yet again, which I give him a lot of credit for, because unlike our president, who likes to wait for things, he did not.
And look, so this is back in 2010, in that piece of shit Rag Inspire magazine called for, if you remember, trucks or vehicles to be used in terror attacks. And so here we have somebody that carried out this terror attack using exactly that, a large white box truck. At the conclusion of the rampage, and look, this is not only a rapid mass murder event, or this is not only a terror attack. This is a rapid. I can't read that.
I know you can't.
This is also a rapid mass murder event. This is, if you look at the original definition for what an active shooter was, we're seeing the transition in that term. more away from active shooter to active killer, which is somebody committing random systematic violence whose intent is to commit immediate or serious bodily injury or death, access to additional victims. This fits that. The weapon of choice here was, instead of being firearms, this weapon of choice was, in fact, a vehicle. So here we absolutely have
a firearm, potentially. We haven't confirmed that yet, though.
I was going to get to that. But yeah, so we have at least in the beginning stages with this vehicle, we have a rapid mass murder attack. We have a rampage killing style attack being used by a terrorist among a civilian population. At the termination of that, there was gunfire. I believe the killer, the terrorist, was shot and killed.
I'm very, very shocked there wasn't an explosive let off at the end.
And there was reports that that the truck was filled with weapons and grenades.
So it may not have activated.
Yeah. So I don't know if there was an exchange of gunfire. I know there was some conflicting reports of exchange of gunfire, not exchange of gunfire. But once again, we have this attack. And look, if this truck was full of weapons and grenades, why doesn't France outlaw weapons and grenades? And second of all, when are we as Americans now going to outlaw? I think it was you that made this point, Sean. Are we going to outlaw crowds first?
Yes.
Celebrations
crowds,
or vehicles?
Yeah, we can't gather in large numbers again because now we're potential targets.
Yeah, no trucks.
No trucks whatsoever.
We're going to outlaw all box trucks.
You know, the sad part is here, after the Parisian police commander was killed in his home, France started to move back, allowing their police officers to take their weapons home. They're starting to arm more and more of them because they understand the threat that is there. We talk about it all the time. Europe is just a couple years at the most ahead of where we are, and we need to learn from the examples that are being put there. It is being systematically destroyed. The free borders are one of the things that did it. The refugees, another thing that did it. They've been overly tolerant of the Muslim Sharia community and the ideals, and they've been almost apologetic for them. And now you're starting to see it go back the other way, right? I mean, Brexit, England done. You've seen France take a much firmer stance than it ever has. And you've seen other countries starting to act these things. We need to actually take heed of this because I'll tell you what, folks, we have parades on a regular basis. We have large events on a regular basis. We actually talked about this 2.5, 3 years ago on one of our shows, that this would be the next style of attack coming down the road. And not because we're any sort of geniuses, but it's not hard to figure out.
It's not rocket science. If you look at the patterns and you look at the methodologies and you look at what they're trying to accomplish, it makes sense that that's where they would go.
Well, it's an easy access. Literally right out the side of the door from where we were last year, a woman killed, 7 people?
Yeah.
After she had some sort of manic psychological breakdown and was mad at somebody and ran everybody over. It's not hard. I'm going to venture a guess that when all the evidence comes out that truck was wired to blow at the end, because we've seen them draw law enforcement officials in closer. We've seen them try to do that and then light something off. We saw them try to do that in the Bataclan shooting in the north area where they were trying to draw all the law enforcement up into the north. So they did the bombing outside the soccer theater, and then he went active shooter. And they were able, but it's still, Charlie Hebdo, the Bataclan, the Bastien Day, and Nice, and then right up the road in Brussels, you had the terrible bombings. Turkey just recently.
Spain in the subway.
A few years ago. 7/7. The attacks in China, the attacks in a couple years ago by the Muslims with knives. All these different things are going to create, and we'll bring the panel back in here in a little bit, but I want to go one-on-one with you on this just for a couple different reasons.
Yeah.
One, there was just a ding in my ear. Number two, I don't know what that was. I kind of want to walk back the last couple of events that have occurred.
Yeah, and I want to make one observation just to kind of put perspective before you go where I think you're going to go with that. Look, all of these events, with the exception of the explosive devices, right? With the exception of the explosive devices, all of these events are rapid mass murder events. These are all rampage killing events.
Yes.
Insert weapon of choice. It doesn't matter if it's a firearm, if it's a vehicle, if it's a knife, these are all with large groups of people. These are all active killer type attacks, active terrorist attacks, which I actually like that phrase better when you're talking about a terrorist style attack. I don't like the phrase active shooter anymore. I understand it has a connotation to it if you're dealing with firearms only, but I think that term is too restrictive for the world we live in today. I prefer the term active killer and or active terrorist. I think that as a nation we need to shift away from active shooter and focusing just on those events and broaden that out a little bit more. But that's one thing all of these events have in common. It is this active killer style attack where they're targeting these groups of individuals, high body count, a relatively low period of time to conduct these attacks. So Sean, I'm going to throw it back over to you now for your observations, sir.
Well, and you just have to start looking at, we had Turkey. Turkey was an active shooter incident prior to the explosions. You had, like I said, the Bataclan. There were explosions and firearms. You had Brussels, which was strictly explosions. But the same things are always being targeted, as we've said, as the mass group of people. Now, through all of its problems, what's coming up, and this was just in the chat room, but what's coming up right around the corner where large groups of people in a very, very already lawless nation that has very horrible infrastructure and not a very well-trained law enforcement community. You have Brazil. You have the Olympics.
Yes.
I understand that there are those people who think that, the show must go on, etc., But I would start taking a hard look at that. I'll tell you right now, if I was the head of the United States Olympic Association, I'd really consider pulling my people out. We can't trust France has its problems, but it's a fairly modern country.
Yeah, a lot better than Brazil.
Right, Brussels, the same thing. Even Turkey, I would say, is farther along security, law enforcement, and protection-wise than Brazil is. So, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just raising my hand to say, hey, I got a point when you're at a stopping point. I'm not trying to raise you.
Go ahead.
Look, I think I know that there's organized crime in Brazil.
That's all there is.
Just a little bit.
That's actually a full-time job in Brazil.
But here's something interesting, right? Just like in resort towns in Mexico where the cartels allegedly run the resorts, people don't screw around at those resorts because that's what brings the money into those communities and jobs. So I said only part of me, thinks that some of these organized crime groups would want to keep that safe because it's going to bring so much money into their community and it's going to line their pockets too.
But they don't, right. But I don't think they're smart enough. I agree, BZ.
That's why I said there's a small part of me, just because of how Mexico's done it. But
you're also thinking,
part of me.
Right. You're also thinking advanced cartels. You're thinking mafia-like, where they have these different
intelligence.
Things. Intelligence.
I said, and because Brazilians are Portuguese, that's why I had to say part, because
I
there's a couple intelligent Portuguese people.
I understand that. I'd like to one.
Sackhead Clint.
Can we? I want to open back up to the panel and go around the table one at a time and get people's responses. And we'll start with
BZ.
We're going to start with the new guy.
When was the last time you were called an FNG?
It's been a long time. Oh, there we go.
Go ahead, Boot.
Yeah. Boot. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'll take Boot over Kitten.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so would I. Every day of the week.
I really will. Honest to God.
Yeah, because Boot's a respectable title at least.
Hold on. I'm letting them roll
But the particular point about that is that it proves what an astoundingly specious argument is gun control. Remove guns, and then you'll use a truck. Remove trucks, and then you'll use, a train. Remove trains, and then you'll use a baseball bat, then a rock. What's the weapon of choice for, say, China and various other cultures? Knives.
Yep, edged weapon.
Exactly.
Same day as Newtown.
So
there was an edged weapon attack in China.
Yeah.
Right? 33 school children, something like that?
Yes. A massive amount.
Yep.
And so the argument about gun control, anybody that worked as a cop in the 90s knows that the cases involving guns, drugs, gangs, crime. It was out of sight in the 90s. So statistically speaking now, that you're attempting to make the argument even on the back of all these shootings, air quotes, all these shootings, yeah, start looking at some of the stats from the 90s. Oh, shockingly, that was also during the Clinton administration as well.
What was in effect at that time? What was in effect? It was getting ready to sunset. Oh, the assault weapons.
Oh, the assault weapons ban.
Weapons ban. That's right.
Right, exactly.
Weird. In a completely unrelated segment, the assault weapons ban was around in that time.
Yeah, imagine that.
Add salt to fries. That's fine. Salty fries are good, but not to a weapon.
It just proves that the argument is completely fallacious, and it's being made for just a a reason. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
It's not the same thing.
Is that a different kind of fallacious that I'm thinking of?
I'm going to move on now.
Good job. That was a great word.
We're going to be using that all night.
Yeah, way to getting us thinking about blowjobs off of...
Professor?
Yeah, fallacious kitty next to me.
Professor, I'm going to turn the mic over to you and Clint for a minute. Your response to Nice, ISIS, I know you've covered this a little bit on the show earlier, but we're a little bit more candid now, which even for you. And what can we honestly do to get the left to understand? We know what we can do to combat it, but what can we do to get the left to understand the actual threat that's in front of us, sir?
I don't know. They've embraced Islam on the left, and that scares me because people like me are an enemy to my own government.
Right.
But not them. The only way we could control this, because it's not America's job to fix this. Yeah, okay? But
it's our problem now.
But it is our problem
So
now.
and
no one else in the world can fix it except one country. There is one country can do it, and that's
Russia.
Saudi Arabia.
Oh.
Saudi Arabia would do it. And as I laid out on one of my shows that cost me a lot of listeners, the nuke maker.
Then don't do it on our show.
I'm not going to.
Okay.
So, I'm not going to talk about how I said we should nuke an Islamic country.
Don't
because
we're not
if I
gonna
went
do
there,
that.
then I'd explain that if we went to Saudi and we said, if you don't fix this problem, you're going to be our problem, and we convince them that we're serious, then Saudi can end this overnight. But Saudi funds these people. They support these people. They take care of their children and families. They educate them. And until we make Saudi, who is technically our friend, right, allegedly, then this is going to persist. And the only way to fix this is with violence.
You know what's going to make more people understand, or at least I think there are certain people that will never understand, or at least accept. I don't think they would consciously accept. But, and I hate to say this, but look, San Bernardino was not 80 dead. UC Merced, the knife attack, was not 80 dead.
We had 3,000 dead.
Fort Hood was not 80 dead. But when we had 3,000 dead, look what happened to this country.
Yeah.
We responded. So my answer to Sean's question of what would it take, and God knows I do not want that to happen in this country.
Agree.
But
I already
what
know
will
what
it
you're
take?
say, and I agree.
It's going to take an attack like that. It's going to take an attack of 80 dead in this country to wake us up and to get the response either in the ballot box or on the battlefield, but a response. And you can have a debate about what that's going to look like, but to have a response, period. Unfortunately, that's what it would take for this country. And I don't
3,000 dead. 3 days later, Democrat parties capitalizing on it. 3 days is all it took for our solidarity in this country to evaporate.
Of course.
So if we can't fix it in 3 more days, when this happens, then...
But you look at the vote that got in terms of, there was still a response
Gave us a Patriot Act.
from the American... There was, and I'm not saying it's the right response, but I'm talking about the American people and the American culture came together. The American people, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, whatever you were, for the most part, we were together as Americans.
Yeah.
And the politicians can do their thing, and yes, the Patriot Act came out of that, and that was a horrible piece of legislation, and I won't argue that at all. But what it did do is it brought us all together as Americans. And so if Sean's question is, hey, what's that going to do to wake people up or to kind of bring us together, that's what would do it.
I don't want to bring people together. I'm beyond that.
No.
But I want to end it
in terms of having a response. But that's at least going to start down the road of ending it.
No, I agree. We need to all be on the same page that it's evil.
Yes.
And then we can start to take steps to solve.
But we're not even on that page right now, and that's kind of where I was going
No,
with that point.
I understood.
We're on the page.
I was just being a smart ass, actually.
We're on the page, right? Every time one of these events happens, what happens is we lose more rights and freedoms.
Yeah.
Well, and then we have people in this country apologizing because people are looking at the perpetrators and blaming the perpetrators, and we have people in this country who apologize for blaming them.
Right.
Oh, we're really sorry. There's some people in this country that don't understand that you like to blow us up and kill us.
Yeah.
Wait, what? No, I'm not even saying let's go into every village and smoke everyone who's Muslim. I'm just saying you find these bastards,
right,
and you kill them. You need to make them fear you more than they fear anything else, because that's the only language they understand.
It's a culture of death.
It is,
yes.
and I'm going to take it as Spruance, and
I know,
I'm sure there's going to be several people that are going to disagree with me on this.
You know who's in our chat room right now going nuts?
Who? Ag.
Yeah.
Look,
I had to turn my phone off.
Here's what I think. Here's what I think our response could be and should be. In World War II, and I am not advocating the bombing or killing of civilians. However, in World War II, there were targets, and sometimes innocent people lost their lives. And look, it wasn't we were bombing innocent people. It's we were bombing strategic targets, and the enemy happened to put X target among a civilian population.
We also didn't have the accuracy today that we have.
We didn't, but.
But if you don't make the public miserable, they're going to continue a war.
And I'm not saying to punish the public outright just because. I'm saying that if there is if we attack them wherever they are, and there is collateral damage, not that we want collateral damage, but just understanding that that's a possibility and that is a reality of war, that you're going to start having public opinion on that side turn against these people as well. Or they're not going to harbor them in their village. And we would need to kill them wherever they are.
And that's a good point, because the Democrat Party is the only party that ever nuked women and children.
This is very true.
This is very true.
Ken, your responses on Nice, France. And then we only have 6 minutes left in the show, so I want to get Ken's response, and then we'll do a quick wrap. We are only doing 1 hour, right?
No, we said till we're done.
Oh, okay.
We can take a break and come back. We go to 9:30.
But then I will give Ken his chance, and then we'll take a break. Ken.
Make this very quick.
You don't have to, my friend.
This is Kitten. The only thing that men of war respect are men of war. Mm-hmm. France, Britain, and many of the other European nations. I know this is going to be harsh, and I pray to God for the families who have suffered from the collateral damage accepted by the totalitarian regimes and leftist regimes that are in power in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, and in South America. But this is what happens when you forego your liberties and your freedoms and you put your trust in government. Unless the nations revolt and seek their sovereign rights as individuals to protect themselves, and when those other nations decide that the lives of the American people and the lives of all others matter, we will continue to have the collateral damage that comes with totalitarian acceptance of terrorism as a way of eliminating populations.
Wow. All right, well, for a moment I felt smart, and then that happened. And I went right back down a notch again. So,
Can someone hand me that thesaurus over there?
I'll tell you.
No, look, I understand exactly what Kitten was saying.
Thank you.
Will you explain it to me later?
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this like Lovely Divine or whatever that girl was that called in? Sounds a lot like Ken.
No, we don't even want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. So to wrap up, we've once again in this nation and in this world have had a horrific terrorist attack, which I will raise a glass to the people of Nice, France. and everyone who's been affected by terror all over the world. And we need to fix this scourge. It needs to be destroyed. We need to find a way where we're saving the innocent lives and stop this whole we're persecuting the bad guy. Of course we are. I don't know why that's a big deal. When you're starting to target the people who are prone to do this, and you're profiling people because based on their activities, intelligence, and all the other things that they have. I know everyone hates that word. Oh, you're not allowed to profile. But Israel's been doing it for years in airports. They use physical profiling. They use situational profiling. They use a bunch of different profiling. Oh, sorry about that, Zeb. Go.
Why don't you see El Al aircraft go down?
Oh, because they know better.
Right. And you also know about El Al aircraft? They're equipped with chaff and various other devices.
Yeah, because they're smart.
Yes, because
they understand the threat.
Yes.
They understand the threat, and they're not willing to face it.
Chaff flares and electronic countermeasures.
Yes,
I believe.
exactly.
Yep.
Damn.
That no one knows about. That's absolutely true.
I had the luxury a couple years ago of interviewing a guy by his first name is Michael, and his last name I can't recall off the top. Rosen. Michael Rosen. Michael Rosen was the guy who developed with the Israeli intelligence service this personnel profiling where through your behavior they could detect whether or not you were about to commit a criminal act. And they use it in the Mall of America. They use it all over the world. But they use it in Israeli airports. And it is 10 times better than a metal detector. It is 10 times better than any other. And you don't hear over here the amount of people that they catch before they're about to do bad things in Israel, because they catch a lot. But they keep going and going. They use this program. They've perfected this program. And we in this country, you had news agencies show up at the Mall of America when they instituted it up there, angry because how dare you profile people? Because we're protecting innocent people. Yeah. I hate to say it, we have to stop excusing, and we had the argument about the Patriot Act and whatnot. There is a line where you should not be attacking innocent people. On the other hand, if there's known criminal behavior and we have science, hey, left, you should love that word, that proves that this helps stop attacks, why would we not do that?
And not only that, look, it's not a racial profile has such a bad term nowadays, right? It's not, you're not profiling somebody based solely on race. You're not saying, ooh, you know what? You are green, therefore you are going to do X.
Right.
Absent any other articulable facts, circumstances, anything else. What you're saying is, hey, based upon a pattern of identifiable whatever, there is a likelihood or a reasonable suspicion that you are going to be involved in whatever activity. It's criminal profiling based upon a pattern of behavior in combination with other factors, and race may be one of those factors. Well, it's not the only defining factor. Religion is not the defining factor or whatever it is. And so there's nothing wrong with a criminal profile. A racial profile only, that's a different story.
Totally different.
One of the things it does is it measures your eye contact, the way you facial, sweating.
Yes.
It looks at a lot of the things that people that are guilty of doing something are about to. You're thinking, and you act different.
Most of it's all based on involuntary movement.
Right.
Has nothing to do with anything. I mean, it does. There's some other things involved, but involuntary movement is the thing that they focus on the most, that we know the brain tells the body to do in times of high stress and criminality.
Yep, that's like the studies of Paul Ekman. Anybody that's read studies of Paul Ekman knows about micro-expressions, series of micro-expressions, etc. The man is brilliant. If you've never read anything about Paul Ekman, you absolutely must. The other thing that I would submit is you can't rely completely upon technology. Mm-hmm. If there's one man that knows about ELINT, SIGINT, comment, etc., it's this man right there, the professor.
That's
and he
what
can probably tell you everything you would want to know. But he also knows that you cannot eliminate HUMINT.
No, hey, you're 1,000% right.
That's the first block. Yeah.
So we're
up
against a break. When we come back, we have more stuff from Freedom Fest here in Las Vegas 2016. Definitely some fun things to talk about today, but I also want to talk into it kind of ties into Nice a little bit, but I just want to talk about the VP pick that's allegedly coming out.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that, and also like to touch on Judge Napolitano's speech today. I saw him speak today at Freedom Fest.
So we come back, we'll have you cover Napolitano for the first couple minutes, and because everyone here was high-fiving after they walked out of listening to Judge Napolitano.
The guy was amazing. Amazing.
And then we will get into the VP thing after all that and more
Is
here.
it kitten?
Meow. All that and more here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done
I didn't see the
right.
beginning, but I saw the end. The
You're
end.
listening to the SHR Media Network. Conservative media done. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Kyle was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. Sackheads Radio Show live from Freedom Fest 2016. Planet Hollywood, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Sackhead Clint.
When you come back, Clint's going to be you.
Yeah. Hey, when we tell me when we're about to come back, Sean. Like, I didn't see a sausage finger pointing. There was no countdown. Like, how long have we been doing this?
I'm sorry. Sausage, I thought they were like French toast.
Right? No. They're like Vienna sausages. Little sausage fingers. Used to count down. If you listen to our show from the beginning, I'm sure the exceptional one himself remembers that. Hey, have another drink. We're about to get into an After Dark episode, just so you know.
Is that a reference to Ken?
Yes.
Yes, he's the only one here.
Please, can we talk about Judge Napolitano? And then we'll turn it to hell afterwards?
We're gonna turn it to hell before that. So, Judge Andrew Napolitano spoke today and had the privilege of sitting in and listening to his about 45 minutes his audio. And Professor, I know you were in there as well, and BZ, you got some of his speech as well, and Ken, you did as well. What do you think of what you heard?
That's a shadow. That's not Ken.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Ken left the building.
Timing is everything. Great timing.
Look, so there were a couple things I was really excited that the judge touched on. First of all, I am so sad that he is not currently on the United States Supreme Court. I am so sad that he's not on the United States Supreme Court. And I don't know that he ever will be, but he should be, because he is so he is such a natural rights advocate and a true constitutional conservative.
He's the closest I've seen to
small government. Yeah, he's just amazing. Even his comments on the application and the issuance of search warrants and so forth, just spot on with everything in terms of individual liberties and what he did. And he talked about a few things that I found to be absolutely spot on. Number one was natural rights. He talked about natural rights, and he brought it all the way back to Aristotle, and which a lot of people don't realize how important it is to study Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, those three big ones that really laid the foundation for John Locke and these others and so forth that followed up this idea of natural rights, which is really the foundation of our founding documents. Not only the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and as Lincoln said, you really have to take those two together to have a firm foundation of exactly what it is our country stands for and the rights that we have as individuals, granted by God, by nature, whatever your belief is, not by the government. And even in the Bill of Rights, it says, hey, these are not all inclusive.
Well,
right?
If you think
so
gave them to you, they pre-exist the government.
They absolutely pre-exist the government. Yeah, they pre-exist everything, and that's one of the things he talked about. Is hey, in the First Amendment, he said, what's the most important word? He asks his law students this, and he says the most important word is the.
Right.
Because by saying the right, it predates any document that's being outlaid, that's being written, that's being voted on, because it lays the foundation for that it already exists and it has existed.
Yes.
Which is just, first of all, to hear a judge say that, or a former judge say that, is amazing, or an attorney or anything else, and
it's refreshing.
It was very refreshing, particularly given this trend. Thank you, Woodrow Wilson, where we went away from constitutional law and we started down this horrible path of case law that has allowed really the law and the Constitution to be perverted.
That's how it's studied, too.
To what it is. Yeah. Exactly. That's absolutely how it's studied. Because what do judges refer to when they're making a decision? They don't They don't refer to the United States Constitution. They refer to case law and previous judgments that were made. So he talked about areas of human behavior where the government cannot interfere, cannot take that away, any of those things, and it was beautiful. He was spot on with that, and as well as his assessment that these rights being inalienable, and to hear somebody of his talk about that. Was awesome. He gave some history. He talked about the Stamp Act and why the Stamp Act was important, in that it actually cost the Crown more to enforce that Stamp Act than revenue that was generated as a result of it.
Yeah.
And
do you know that's the only thing he got wrong? Was his statement that that's the only act of government that ever costs more than for compliance than they brought in revenue.
I think he was talking about at that. I think he was talking about at that time.
Yeah, well, up to that point it was, yeah.
Right, and that's what I think he was.
But if he meant ever, then
I think that's what he was referring to. But he tied that into the other amendments as well. He didn't. He talked about the First Amendment most specifically, but he also tied it. He also tied it into the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment. Yeah. He tied all those things in terms of due process, the right against self-incrimination, all those things, which I thought was phenomenal. And he also talked about an interesting concept about how the majority could very easily circumvent and how easily tyranny can take hold when the majority is able to vote away and strip the individual of rights and liberties.
Right, the one versus the majority.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly.
But how often do we see that in our country now?
And that was his point,
yeah.
right? All the time.
Horrible.
And he brought the Patriot Act up specifically. And his analysis of that,
and 1,000 times since.
And his analysis of that was amazing. In everything, he had it right on. Everything is about security and safety, and we're giving up our individual liberties or rights slowly but surely in the name of security.
Right, and it's funny how many people will allow that to happen. There are some people, that's the problem. There are some people in this country who are completely okay with giving up a lot of rights and liberty for security because they believe in the fact that government is end-all, be-all, and a good thing when left unchecked. They believe that.
I think there's a larger segment of the population believes in balance, and the judge touched on this also. Is there are people you hear it all the time, right? People, there has to be a balance between. Well,
no, they don't.
No, there doesn't.
No,
there's not. There is individual liberty, and there is security.
Yes,
and you can't have. You have to first establish or maintain the individual liberty that God has given you, that nature has given you, in order to maintain or then begin a discussion for how we achieve security within the realm and within what we know to be our individual liberties, which makes us Americans.
Well, one of our liberties is a very, very easy way to security, and it's the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. You can secure yourself great if you have the liberty of the Second Amendment, both at home and elsewhere, out
Which
walking
does
around.
not give you that right. It simply says the right exists and government can't take it.
Right, but government keeps taking it.
Right.
And the thing is, the right doesn't exist because it's written down, right? The right exists.
Zeppelin's having a heart attack over
Are you okay over there? Look,
what'd you put in his cup?
It's Jameson. We've had this discussion, boys.
Is that what's in my cup?
Yes, we are all drinking Jameson.
And a roofie.
I thought we were all Baptist tonight.
Yours has a roofie in it, and you might be in bed with us later.
You're looking pretty good right now.
Sir,
Just saying.
I always look good.
I want to go.
I signed an autograph today.
I saw.
I look even better as you drink more. Just so you know.
I saw a physical response out of BZ that I want to get the emotional response from, or the verbal response from, only because that was the fastest I've seen you move. And you rotated on your trunk like
I did.
like
my
a
head
helicopter.
rotated like Linda Blair.
It was somewhere between your chest and your waist. I've never seen somebody bend there, but you threw it in a giant circle. So your response to the professor's
the
comment.
professor nailed it. And
Nailed it.
And so few people know how and why the Constitution was crafted. Tell us just a bit about positive versus negative rights with regard to the Constitution.
Yeah, well, I was there when they wrote it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were serving water at the
I was a water boy.
Yeah.
Ken wasn't available. They didn't let.
I was outside at the time.
Someone had to clean the privy.
Asking if you could serve water. Like, can I just come in and serve water? It's cold.
Yeah, at least fill out the application.
Professor,
Ken was
please.
doing the congressional privy at the time. Yes.
The Constitution doesn't grant; it limits.
Yes, it doesn't grant any rights. There's not a single right granted in the
limits.
God grants the rights.
Right.
Yes.
Otherwise, government would give them to us.
Right, and then it limits what government can take away from the people. In theory, that's exactly what it
7 enumerated
authority
powers
versus right.
Yes,
7 enumerated powers. We have the sovereignty, and we cede a little of it temporarily to these guys, and they forget that they're temporary politicians too.
Yeah,
but
it's supposed to be
right. But here's the thing: is this president that we have, your president, Ken's president, not
Yours-
mine.
yours
No. He
He's only
talks
half
about
my
negative
president.
rights all the time, and it's not even a thing. There's negative rights. You've got rights that are yours,
Mhm.
and this concept of having negative rights gives government power and an ability to mess with you.
Explain the concept of negative rights, because everybody may not be familiar with that concept. That's a pretty.
I
and
may have
I'm
had
not
too
saying
many
this.
Jameson
I'm
here to do that.
not saying this to be a smart ass at all. But
No,
that is an advanced term that most people don't understand the concept of negative rights.
I
or
certainly,
exactly what they are.
I certainly guarantee it's not taught in the classroom today.
No,
either.
I absolutely
Go ahead,
not.
define it, and I'll add to you.
The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, limits the role of government. It doesn't exist for the expansion of me. It's not all about me. If you look at the way it was written, it limits the government. It says shall not, cannot, will not, etc. And so it's completely misinterpreted purposely by leftists, and it needs to be God, I hate to say this term, a living document.
It is a living document, though, just not the way the left calls it.
Exactly, not the way they mean
Well,
it.
it's alive and relevant, but
right.
it doesn't mean that
It
it's
doesn't
constantly
change and
progressing
shift
and
and
advancing.
everything
Right,
else. And
it's
you could-
alive and relevant.
Yeah,
I
you
wouldn't
can
even
have
say
cosmetic
advancing, I think
surgery.
changing.
The living document can have cosmetic surgery. We call that the amendment procedure. So it's alive and it's changing, but it's not reinterpretable. We have to use the same words. You see, when I ask people questions and define things, like when we were talking earlier, there is a difference between liberties and freedoms. They mean two different things. And so, but to understand that, you can't get that out of a dictionary. So what you have to do is you have to go back and find Noah Webster and get his dictionary, because he wrote the dictionary during the time where the Founding Fathers were writing these words. And then you can understand what they mean. Now, negative rights, it's like, have you ever talked to somebody and they use so many double negatives that you're really not sure what they've actually told you?
Yes, and they think they're smart.
Right. So it's pseudo-intellectualism. And this is what the left does today, is they try to make those rights in the Constitution as laid out with double negatives to make it so that they actually can do whatever they want. Or they come in with changes with words that they call it common sense. Like the Second Amendment says that government at any level has no right to restrict gun rights, because you have a right to defend yourself. But common sense gun rights, Congress can pass.
Common sense.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's where we get negative rights, is because the Congress has a right to do this through a negative backdoor, to backdoor into it. Yeah.
It's funny because, very recently we've heard of a politician who said that the Constitution is a document that limits rights. And everyone said,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's right, it's limiting our right as a people. He never said whose rights it was limiting.
Right.
And it was almost like he never said what hope and change we were going to get. It was the president. And that was one of the things that I immediately thought of is, wait a minute. We all assume it's the people whose rights, and it's not.
It's not what he meant.
Government.
Yeah.
Right. And
It meant his powers that he wanted to have.
right. In a lot of ways, I've said time and again, this guy isn't the liar a lot of people think he is. He's been very honest about what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. Everyone just assumes that change would not come to this country. So when we talk about rights and negative rights, the left knows more about it than the right does, because they know how to subvert it.
Yeah.
And how to get around it and
Know your enemy.
allow government to expand. And we see that again with the Second Amendment all the time, right? They look for these little caveats to just tick away a piece of it here and there, this and that. Oh, it's just a 30-round magazine this time.
Right.
Oh, it's just this.
What do you need 30 rounds
Right.
for?
Well, because
That's
I'm
right.
lazy.
I'll tell you what.
No one
if you
does.
Need,
Come on.
If you need
I'm
30
lazy.
rounds to hunt, you're a bad hunter.
Right.
And if you have less than 30 rounds, then you're an ungodly good shooter. I've been in combat, and let me give you a statistic. In Vietnam, it was 2,730 bullets to the average kill. 2,000 bullets to the average kill.
Yep.
So don't tell me that if someone breaks into my house, and I'm supposed to do this under pressure and not experience and no training, and I'm trying to shoot the bad guy, I'm going to go through some bullets.
Yeah.
And they weren't carrying a 28-pound rifle. They were carrying a rifle created by Armalite originally,
Yes.
which was one of the lightest rifles made and had the least amount of recoil
Right.
you could possibly
It was about
imagine.
the most accurate we've ever had.
Yes.
1957, I think
Yeah.
it was.
Now
is
go back and
when
think
they
the
came
founding
out.
fathers and what they did. They say we should only have muskets, right?
Look, but here's the argument to that, right? Because these weapons weren't around at the time. Well, you know what?
Neither were
was the
microphones or
internet,
typewriters, right,
Neither was
yeah.
the internet. So does that mean that a blogger doesn't have the same First Amendment rights as somebody did, or
right. Or
a
NBC News.
or a
Yeah.
newspaper person?
Television
Because-
wasn't around then.
unless they're using it. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's disingenuous to speak of technological advancements as the remedy or the reason why you should eliminate the Second Amendment. I mean, the cannon was around at that time period. The tank was around at that time period.
So was a machine gun.
There's a machine gun at that time. So
Have you
that-
guys not seen that there was a machine gun during the Revolutionary
There was actually
War?
two different versions. One that was more like a Gatlin, and then there was,
predated it, but yeah.
and then there was one that was actually like a rifle with a giant cylinder
Yes,
on it.
it was a big canister.
it was
Yes.
it was a semi-automatic.
It was
rifle.
a rifle. It had a rifle
Yes,
barrel.
but
It was
but it was semi-automatic.
Semi-automatic, right?
Yes.
And we even had submarines then. They had it. They called it the Turtle.
Yes, the
So
Turtle.
everything else is
Also, the Dallas shooter shot 70 bullets. He was a skilled and trained marksman.
Yep.
70 bullets, 5 dead.
Yep.
12 total hit.
And he also did not use an AR-15, and that's
Right.
something
He left that in the
No.
truck.
It's funny how they're burying this story
Right, because
too.
they owned it, because they had one.
Right.
Yeah, then they're
But
making
the
it all
reality
about
was is he used a SKS, which is a
Right.
Chinese-Russian weapon.
Yeah.
it. At least we use a communist weapon.
Right, it's a commie weapon.
And
But
Orlando,
tomorrow we'll have that.
no
Mark.
AR in Orlando either.
Well, exactly. Well, but at least that was an AR style platform, and
Yeah.
I said that I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue this and that over a It's an AR style platform. We all know the
American
platform.
media maggots think that's an AR.
Exactly, and
Right.
that's the problem.
Exactly.
That's the
And a
problem.
Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it is if you eat it the wrong way.
Well, the left have disingenuously already explained exactly what weapon they're going after.
Right.
And that's the AR-15.
Right, and that's the sad part because, like you said, in Dallas, he used an SKS, heavier round than the standard AR-15, more velocity, much more damaging. There's arguments that you can be made depending on what round he was firing from the AR-15, the 223 or the 5.56, from a distance, whether or not it would have achieved the same penetration through the armor. But the SKS with the 7.62. No question, it's going to punch through that, the street behind it, etc.
Did you see the way Ken stood up when you said penetration?
Yes, I did. He jumped. I've never seen him get on his toes that quick in my life.
That was even more noticeable than me.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So when we talk about government and negative rights and the limitation of government, and that's why we designed it, anyone who thinks otherwise, and like you said, there are certain rights that we have that were given to us by God. It's not constitutional per se. They just cited why these rights shall not be infringed versus saying, oh, you have these rights. It's, no, these are rights given you by God, and we will never allow our government to infringe.
You have to be very careful. Even here at this Libertarian conference, there's a necessity to eliminate God.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some circles, and we talked
Not
about
always,
this earlier. Not all of them, and I think it's and not that I'm not saying that I agree with it necessarily, but what I'm saying is I think that there's a tendency along because there are different slivers of libertarianism as well.
Yeah.
I'm certainly libertarian in some of my views.
Yeah. Small L.
Yeah,
right,
small L.
Keep in mind that being a conservative doesn't you're not libertarian in some views. These are conservative views.
Yeah,
they
but
just happen to be articulated better by the
libertarian platform. But so where I was going with that was I think that it's more a God shouldn't be you worship how you want, I'll worship how I want, but God should not be overriding in your version of Christianity should not be compelled upon me or my version of Christianity or whatever it is. Because look, there's different Christian religions even, and you look at the difference between Catholics and Baptists,
Protestants,
whatever it is. So there's certain canon which is within
and
accepted.
Methodists.
Which is within accepted Orthodox, correct? For example, you can have a 5-point Calvinist who is within Orthodox with a Southern Baptist, right? In terms of salvation, these other things, but it's within the accepted Christian Orthodox. Whereas Catholicism may be outside of accepted Christian Orthodox in certain circles, and I think that's more the libertarian point of view on that. It's not the all religion should be taken away. It's not the absence of religion.
I think Zeppelin wants to lick you.
But
honestly,
part of the LSD.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
So, anyways, I lost my train of thought. But I think that's where they're going with it.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but I've experienced here that there is some level of antithesis to any projection of who God is. Period.
And the other thing, too, though, is as much right as we have to believe in God, they have the right not to.
Oh, most certainly. You do have the right not to believe in God, but it makes it a whole lot easier to exterminate your rights if you do not have.
If they don't come from God.
But if they come from nature, they're not defining specifically what God is.
But that's not what the Declaration of Independence says, that nature or nature is God.
But it's a creator. Whatever a libertarian may believe the creator to be. They may not believe...
It could be mom. Mom gave birth to them.
Whatever it is. No, I don't think it's mom. I think it is a higher spiritual being, whatever that is. But
those who don't believe, you could still have the argument that, fine, it's the person who gave you life. We may not agree on what that is, but when you were born into this earth from that person, even through science and medical... You were born with these inalienable rights. It doesn't matter where you think they come from. The simple fact is they are inalienable. There should no longer be a conversation to have. But the other thing, Ken, and we noted this earlier, and I absolutely agree.
It's kitten to you.
The other thing, kitten. And we only have a couple minutes left, but I also feel, though, being here, and I said this last year and I'll say it again, you can have that conversation with a lot of the atheist people here, and it's an intelligent, respectful conversation, which is what is dramatically different than left atheists. Because they also, the libertarians here, respect your right to worship and believe. They just don't, and they will argue intelligently and friendly as to why they don't. And I will give them credit for that, because it is a different mindset. It's, hey, we disagree, and here's why, and I'll sit and talk to you about it and have enough respect to treat you like a human being and understand that we may not agree, but that doesn't mean you're any less of a person than I am. And that's something you definitely get at this conference that I appreciate greatly, because it's so refreshing to disagree with somebody and have an intelligent conversation to fix it.
And they don't want to change history.
Amen. Amen. Oh, I shouldn't say amen. I may get in trouble here.
There we go. All the ground you just made, you lost.
Now we got to start digging again.
Why do you always go to Ken?
I apologize. Look, we're up against a break. This is my duty as
we're going to keep going?
We're up against a break.
Oh, you bastard.
We're up against a break. When we come back, I do want to do a Freedom Fest roundtable wrap-up, and then we'll cut it. We'll end it maybe about 15 minutes early tonight.
Sure, that's what you keep saying.
Someone's got to tuck me in.
All this and more when we come back live from Freedom Fest on the Sackheads Radio Show, SHR Media Network.
All right. I'm going to take the wee beastie to a restaurant.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Kaf was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reverb Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative Media.
Yeah. Y'all welcome to.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live in the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us. We're wrapping up the show.
You gentlemen need a drink?
You gentlemen need a drink. Clint, will you?
We have
will you
ginger
pour?
and Jameson. Are you good with that?
Wait, there's redheads? No one told me there were redheads.
Not just regular good, very good.
We don't need an alcohol permit because we're not selling.
We have
so when
Adam
the government's
and
listening.
And it was Zach, and I didn't get your last name, Zach. I met you gentlemen earlier. Can I steal a microphone from somebody for these two veterans? And they both are, in fact, veterans. And we're going to give you another interview. I apologize. I got that wrong. We're going to give you another interview tomorrow. But you know what? Tonight we're drinking. Sit down. Let's talk a little bit about you guys.
We're red-blooded Americans who love our country.
There's a microphone right
then
there.
we definitely definitely want to hear it.
Thank you. Sir, thank you very much.
Sir, don't ever call him that again, or we're going to have a problem.
But
get right up on the microphone. You want about a fist length.
He spells Sir C-U-R.
Okay, good.
Don't put the microphone in your mouth like this guy tries to do.
Right.
It's a totally different show.
No gag reflex whatsoever.
Yeah,
so
amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is good.
So
We're in the
we're
right spot.
going to give you guys a whole spot tomorrow, but I want to talk to you a little bit about your company because I think it's absolutely outstanding.
It is outstanding.
And it's if you have any interest, I do have an excellent judgment. And thank you. You can show up anytime you want on the show. If you have any interest in helping families of veterans and active duty military personnel, you want to shut your mouths and listen right now because this is a good way for you to go to school. Please.
So thank you, Sean. Thank you for the introduction. So on a serious note, you're absolutely right. So Patriotic Online Marketplace, also known as Pomp USA, is a peer-to-peer online marketplace just like eBay or Etsy. The difference is all of our vendors are active, reserve, or National Guard service members, veterans, or military spouses. So anything that you buy online currently, you could buy from a military entrepreneur if you want to support the military and their families. So a lot of people thank me for my service, and I'm very humbled by our grateful nation. But I will tell you, the one that sacrifices the most in my family is my wife.
Yeah.
And military spouses, what most people don't know about the military is that most military families are one-income families. It's because one of the sacrifices that spouses make is they sacrifice a career because we are constantly moving from location to location. I got it. I volunteered. We all volunteered. I'm not, it is what it is. But a lot of military families turn to e-commerce as a way to supplement the family income. The problem is that current marketplaces are just oversaturated and they nickel and dime their vendors. And our story kind of illustrates this point very well. So last year, we're the parents of 2 small girls, and if anyone ever has a small girl or a niece, they'll know that the mama wants to dress their baby up in headbands, make them look cute and whatnot.
And Daddy wants to buy as many guns as he can possibly get his hands on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Fortunately, he's already got it.
Good, yeah.
Hey, red-blooded American over here.
Amen, baby.
So, either way, the headbands that the mama's going to buy from any kind of store or anyone, they're always one piece of fabric. They fall down the girl's head. Looks like a choking hazard. It's obviously a no-go for mama. So my wife was very creative and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to make releasable headbands. And so she started making them for our girls. They look great. And she said, hey, you know what? I also want to contribute to the family income. We didn't have any aspirations of becoming rich off of it, but she's like, hey, if I can make an extra $100 or $200, that helps out, whether at holiday time, birthday time. I mean, even if it's dance recital time, And so the problem was that when she went to Etsy and she searched for baby headbands, there's over 274,000 headbands on that site. Exactly. So it was very disappointing. We even thought we had a better mousetrap than everyone else. Mm-hmm. We even said, hey, we got a releasable headband. But how do you get noticed when the market's that bad? So,
flooded.
It was just insane. So obviously I saw the look of despair on my wife's eyes, and I said, hey, babe, it's just too bad you can't highlight the fact that you're a military spouse, because I bet people would want to buy from you.
Yeah, yep. Absolutely.
And that's really the genesis of Patriotic Online Marketplace. That's when the hard work began. And that's when we decided, hey, you know what? We need to have a dedicated marketplace for those who have served our country, are currently serving our country, and for their families. So they are allowed to realize their dreams, bring their dreams to fruition.
Well, and you talked about it. One of the things we talked when we met earlier is most people don't realize when you say one-income family, because a lot of people in the military, especially active duty, move regularly, there's no chance of rooting. There's no chance of that 20 years with the same law firm. It gets very, very limited. And to have the opportunity for that spouse to contribute, I think helps them to deal with the fact that the situation is what it is. And if anyone ever looks at what military personnel makes, it's horrible. We've talked about that a million times on our show. It's despicable. Yeah. It's almost...
Well, how much do you guys make? I mean, what's going on? I feel like I can do what this guy does.
Any idiot can do what I do. Trust me. So the fact that there's an opportunity to highlight the crafts and whatever it be for veterans' family, and you were saying, and we talked about too, some of the things that are on there are pretty magnificent. Woodworking items. It's...
Yeah, the categories are endless.
Yeah.
So really, as far as the e-commerce is going, like essentially anything you buy. I mean, there are, what I always say is, like, if you're going to invest in Pomp USA, you're not investing in one entrepreneur, but you're investing in millions of entrepreneurs. You're not investing in one product or service, but you're investing in millions of products or services, some that haven't even been invented yet. And so at the core of it, Pomp USA breaks down the barriers to market entry, for the military community. And you also kind of hit on the point that, like, I love my wife very much. And her identity is consumed with being... She wants her own identity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're very grateful for everything that the Army has provided. I mean, I've gotten to see Southwest Asia twice, for about a year long each. It's been great.
Sure about that?
Well,
marvelous.
But the spouse is the one who deals with the problems. Another thing I say is, like, so I volunteer for service, and I get it. We're all volunteers, so I'm not special or unique in any regards to that. We've got a lot of great men and women in uniform. But I'm telling you, like, it's pretty easy to shoot back at someone who's shooting at you. You could call it instinctive. No, I had no qualms doing it. And you know, as a Ranger, I mean, you know, where I was in Iraq, ISIS controls now. Where I was in Afghanistan, Taliban controls now. So we're both on, you know, just on small cops and stuff. So, but the one who has to deal with it, the one who is left behind is the spouse. So I don't know what else to say other than I love my wife, and I want to give her the opportunity, and I want to give all military spouses the opportunity to showcase the talents they have. Because Pomp USA will live and die by the quality of products and services offered by the military entrepreneur. And I have made that bet, and I've invested my life savings. I've put my family in financial security because I know that this has to come to fruition. I know that we have to build Pomp USA to give everyone else the opportunity that they deserve. And it's a bet I'll make all damn day long, twice on Sunday. I am so proud to be part of the community, proud to be, you know, stand with the military community and everyone and that includes the Grateful Nation. I mean, I can see it in people's eyes, and I know you're a veteran, Sean, so, you know, thank you. But how we were... Oh, yeah?
The old-timer up there.
The old-timer, yeah.
But I was smart enough to go in the Air Force.
Yeah. So I think that people even consider the Air Force part of the military.
Sometimes. Occasionally.
No, I want to make that is just kidding, but Rangers lead the way, but yeah, I will. Thank you.
This whole Pomp USA thing made me think that you could have been in the Air Force.
Right. See, so we got Smart Rangers and Tough Rangers.
We know Rangers lead the way very well. Last year, our guest was Chris Speranto, who spent 3 days with us at Freedom Fest.
Yeah.
So we very well learned that Rangers lead the way. None of us really wanted to argue that with them.
We will remind people every day of it, regardless if you ask.
We all kind of looked around and were like, yeah, you know what, Chris, you're right. I have no argument. Do you have an argument?
Benghazi? Yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah, seriously, dude. How could I possibly argue that with you right now? I'm just going to look you in the face and be like, I don't know if they lead the way.
13 hours, he saw more action than I did at Desert Storm.
Really, Chris? You were the only Ranger on that detail. Did you really lead the way?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go there.
Yeah. I was trying to pay somebody else to say it just to see what would happen, but nobody would take the bait.
Shorts, huh? I love that
guy. I really think what you're doing is amazing. I really think that not only does it help benefit the families financially, but emotionally as well. Anyone that's ever been out of work for a short period of time, when you have a working ethic, knows how demoralizing it is. If you ever get laid off, to be out of work, I was laid off once for 3 weeks, and by the second week I was going out of my mind.
Only 3 weeks?
I took a job that paid less than unemployment just so I could go back to work.
No, you're absolutely right. So I
do it. I had to. I was going crazy.
Well, right, because there's a loss of identity, and you know that you.
Oh boy,
it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's who you are.
That's an understatement.
Yeah,
and absolutely. I mean, military spouses have so much. And it's not just military spouses. I mean, we're veterans as well. I mean, if you're a veteran-owned business, you know, come out, and it doesn't matter at what level of business, whether you're a home business or whether you're multi-million-dollar.
Get it,
establish,
do it, expand it.
Yeah, absolutely. Grow your business. Use us. You know, we don't charge listing fees. We don't charge membership fees.
That's awesome.
We don't charge advertising fees for you to advertise your ad over someone else's. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I'll just tell you, I'm a product of public education, so maybe I just don't get it. But the idea I look at it is...
that's refreshing. Refreshing honesty.
So, no, look at it. I mean, so the other marketplaces, they charge their vendors. I have no idea why they try to piss off their vendors. I don't get it. So I look at it as like, hey, if you're a man or woman who's raised your right hand to serve our country, especially in a time of war, you don't owe us 20 cents to list your item. You can't pay us $1 to advertise your product over someone else's. We won't take your money. And if you're a military spouse, you don't have to pay $40 a month to belong to our club. You're already part of the good guys. You're already part of the team. I mean, these are people that we want to drink a beer with
and hang out and celebrate.
I'd rather drink a beer with them than nickel and dime them to death. I mean, so I've never met a vendor that has a problem that we take 3% commission off of sales. But we want to show the value to those military entrepreneurs first.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's like cops and soldiers all being sheepdogs, and if we can't take care of each other,
then who are you going to take care of?
Who will?
Right.
And who can?
Well, and I think the amazing part about this is it shows you how many veterans not only serve abroad and their families deal with that, but then it shows you the contribution they give when they come back and the businesses that they do create and the spouses outside of it too, and continue to grow. And, whenever we think of veterans in this country, I think people think that when they walk out the door on their last tour, their last day, and they turn in all their ACUs or whatever, that's it.
It's
right?
Forever.
And
you get it.
And people forget that then they go in to start these great businesses. They make these. I mean, you go online right now and you search veteran-owned businesses. There's so many amazing ones out there. Everything from, like I said, really intricate and amazing just woodworking that you pay millions of dollars, unbelievable amounts of money for.
Jewelry
to Fortune 500 companies, and then back to jewelry.
Beverages, to sports drinks.
Yes.
Clothing. I mean, it's a wide range. So we don't want to limit what someone can sell. We just want to be selective on who does the selling. So
does that include prostitution?
If it's legal in that area, and it's a veteran-owned business.
So no.
Okay.
So you do limit then. I apologize for bringing that up.
But yes. So whatever our thing is, so
we're in Vegas and been drinking. So you have to give us a break. You have to give us a break.
I got it. It's a legit question.
Look, all I'm saying is,
boy, Sean, he's
I'm certainly
kind.
not looking, but.
No, you're trying to place your services, aren't you?
Right.
If you're not looking at your offering, I mean, no, well, actually, you bring up a really good point, because people want to know, like, what is the decision-making process as far as what you can sell,
Right.
And so the common sense answer, what we go with is anything you can buy in a typical mall is what you can sell. Now, I have not delegated down the authority I have a prohibitive list. I've not delegated down the responsibility to add to that list. I will review all businesses, but we absolutely want to make sure that it is still for the mainstream Americans. We don't want to turn people off. Because I want to say is because what you're asking is actually there's some finer detail into it.
Yeah. And I was being a little extreme, but in my point of view. But I'm saying, like, if somebody wanted to go sell amateur home, porn,
whatever,
or
something, right?
And that's kind of where I was going with that by being a little absurd in my
I'll
statement.
answer a tough question right now to what is actually a little bit more applicable.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is, let's say the Confederate flag.
Mm-hmm.
So eBay has said the Confederate flag cannot be sold on eBay.
Correct. It's a battle flag of Lee.
Exactly.
It's history.
I am from New York.
Yeah.
I went to the Virginia Military Institute. We had 10 cadets died on the field of Muddy Shoes in support of that Confederate flag. So I personally believe that the Confederate flag is a symbol of heritage, not hate.
Absolutely.
We will absolutely not tolerate anyone that discriminates anyone and have any kind of racist store whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
However, since I do not believe that the Confederate flag is a racist symbol, and especially used properly, and if people want to symbolize and show that heritage, because that fight for states' rights that a lot of people in the South really feel.
Yep.
So the first time I ever heard of the Battle of Northern, or the War of Northern Aggression, is when I moved from New York to Virginia. And I thought I was pretty good on history.
Yeah.
But I was like, the War of Northern Aggression, I was like, I don't
know that one.
When was this again? I don't know. So it depends on.
Hold on, let me check the book.
Yeah.
So there's a different perspective. And absolutely will not tolerate anyone that uses it in a racial hatred manner whatsoever.
Right.
But if you want to know who's making those decisions, I'm not going to cave on
Good
public.
Good for you.
Opinion.
Good
for
public
you.
opinion.
Well, and history is history.
And the battle flag is
Precisely.
ridiculous. It's
history.
It's the battle flag of Lee, and Lee was a West Point graduate who served because his state asked him to serve. We named a boomer after him.
Right.
Lincoln asked.
Yeah, the Robert E. Lee was a ballistic nuclear missile submarine that served during the Cold War.
Serve for the North.
Get right up on the microphone. Sorry.
He chose to serve for the South only because of states' rights.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And there was a lot of arguments there that we can go back and forth, but at the end of the day, it was never a hatred flag. And we have a tendency to be so damn politically correct in this country.
Or sensitive.
And sensitive that we deem these things that are hate items that aren't even close to being hate items. They may not represent a history that you like, but we can't just erase history because somebody disagrees.
Right. There's a lot of people that have misused people have even misused pressure cookers.
Of course.
I am not asking for
Boston Marathon.
So
Boston Marathon
I
bomber,
didn't know that they cooked meth in them. I was referring more to the Boston bomber, but
but people, I mean, but you know what? People can misuse. But people can misuse anything.
Right.
And let's be completely honest. I mean, somebody could have a mirror and hit somebody else with it. You're not using the mirror the way it's intended.
That's not true. It's an assault mirror, and we need to get rid of those.
Exactly. Well, that's only when you put a scope, detachable magazine, and
that's right. That's an assault mirror. That's right.
So we've gone on sort of different tangents. The point is that Pomp USA is not about policy or politics. It's about people. And not the ordinary people either. I mean, these are the people that have volunteered to serve our country.
Okay, so is it pompusa.com?
It is www.pompusa.org.
.org.
Okay.
And it's already been... Right, totally different. POMPUSA.org.
And we already got it out to our listeners.
Yeah, and our chat room's already thrown it around as well, so it's getting out there.
Then let me also put a little caveat to the listeners before they crash my site. Is that, so we just got out of development last week. I am currently beta testing the site now. I've already requested certain changes that need to happen. And it won't be till next week that I bring on vendors to sign up a store. So the only thing I would ask for your listeners is to wait a little bit. Let me do a follow-up interview and say, hey, look, come on, patronize our store.
We would love
sign
that.
up a vendor. So one of the questions that one of your listeners is going to have is, how do we verify all our vendors? We go through ID.me. ID.me is a company out of Washington, D.C. that essentially gets discounts from large retailers for the military community. So even here we're in Planet Hollywood, so even they're under the Caesars umbrella. So even if you go on Caesars.com and you see, hey, if you're a military member, get 10 or 15% off your room rate, whatever, that essentially is ID.me. And it takes you to the site. You can do a really quick verification. It's instant. It brings you back to the site as soon as it says.
And it's safe.
Yeah,
we talked about this before. I've seen ID.me used in other places, and I've actually read research on it because I've had to log into other things with ID.me, and I'm one of those people that I get a little weird when all of a sudden I'm on a third-party site. And I've done the research. It's an extremely safe site.
Absolutely. And if you're a military person, you should be using ID.me anyways. I mean, because it gets you discounts. I mean, UnderArmour.com.
Oakley.
Oakley. Because the thing is, so there's so many people that want to help out our community. It is extremely, I don't even know what else to say other than extremely humbling. Because, I don't even know what to say. I mean...
Well, we're all humbled in you guys. Those who your family sacrifices, you guys sacrifice it. And, like you said before, it's easy to shoot back. But when you're the spouse who's home with the 3 kids or the 2 kids for a year by yourself, morning, noon, and night, there's no break, no relief. That is something, I think gets greatly overlooked with the community, the military community anyhow. Yeah. It's definitely twofold for a lot of people. And there's enough people out there who recognize the sacrifice on both parties.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. But, it's definitely one of those things that I think the nation, by and large, no matter what they agree or disagree with as far as conflicts or wars, I think 85% of the people, and I'm being legit, there's probably 15% out there who are scumbags, but there's probably about 85, and I can say that's my show, 85% of the country actually understands the sacrifice despite where they stand on anything. And I would say probably 40% of that understand how deep that sacrifice goes when it starts affecting family.
Right.
And that's just a number I've made up in my head, but it's just from talking to people.
You're going to say scumbags. I'm going to say assholes.
All right, I'm good with assholes too.
Yeah, because it's my show too, so we can say whatever the hell
No,
we
it
want.
is. Yeah, I mean, if you want to tell them to screw, we can tell them to screw. We can do that.
And we do.
We're drinking whiskey on our show, for God's sakes, in the middle of it.
This is
Cheers,
the best.
by the way.
Yes, this is one of the best shows.
This is one of this is one of our more tame shows. Just so you know,
Yeah. Tomorrow night.
So
tomorrow night after 8.
Tomorrow night's going to be open mic, and there's going to be even more whiskey flowing. So feel free to come on by. And we usually do this on Saturday nights at Freedom Fest, but this year we've had so many people kind of come up and ask about it
on Friday night.
that we're going to do it Friday night.
We will put it out as well.
Bring the bottle and hang out.
Bring the bottle.
Bring
come
yourself
hang out.
something. Bring yourself some booze because I don't know if we can.
No, right? We'll bring our own.
We already killed a bottle of Jameson tonight.
That was an hour and a half right there. So.
We like
oh boy! Oh my gosh!
So Sean,
my gosh,
we have 5 minutes.
Sean, when are they being interviewed tomorrow? Are they going live?
They are. I haven't actually put that in the book yet because we had to talk.
Okay,
but everyone will know. I'll put it out there.
Got it.
Website's pompusa.org. Social media yet?
Yes, we're up on all the social media. My wife's actually handling all of that.
So
in addition to being a homemaker, being with our 2 kids, she's also doing that. I mean, that's how amazing it is. And look at our Facebook, look at our Pinterest, look at our what other social media?
Twitter.
LinkedIn, Twitter.
It was one of those things
Instagram.
like I would have done with my wife, and I'm
Tumblr.
like, "Hey, honey, I just brought on this really big project, and I need you to do half of that for me. That'd be great. All right, go get him, killer."
Well, I'll tell you what, though. You know what? The team consists of more than just me and my wife. The team also consists of a lot of military spouses, a lot of transitioning military officers. So we've got. I mean, rest assured that the Pomp USA isn't just what you're looking at. I know I've got a pretty good radio face, but
I was actually going to remark on how excellent it is, and it also shows you. But it also shows you the love of a spouse, right? I mean, really, that's love.
As a Denny, I always thought there was something wrong with most of them.
But yeah, check us out on all the social media. It's pompusa.org. You know, use a search engine, Google, Bing, and Patriotic Online Marketplace. Or, I mean, you can even shorten it. We're still showing up on a lot of the search engines.
Awesome.
And just check us out. Send us a message. We'll get back to you.
We're really happy that you could join us. Really happy we could have a drink with you. That definitely makes our night. And then tomorrow we'll have a little bit more formal interview, and then tomorrow night we'll get hammered. Shattered. Absolutely shattered where I come from. Hey, folks, that's going to be it for the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Join us starting tomorrow.
Much for a roundtable wrap up.
That was it. Join us tomorrow
morning. Much rather have these guys on anyways.
Absolutely. I mean, have you seen the professor? Join us tomorrow morning as we pick up with more interviews live from Freedom Fest 2016 right here on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Talk dude. Talk dude.
Radio.
Talk dude. Talk dude.
Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.